I'd now like to invite up onto stage from South Africa, Matt Page. Matt is the commercial director from Ringier in South Africa. He's going to talk about busting marketplace myths.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning for at least some of us. Some of us had a good morning, 4:30 this morning. I'm talking about busting marketplace myths. And I thought this slot on Friday was a bit of a graveyard shift, but actually I think it's quite nice because I can touch on a lot of the themes that have resonated. And what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to give you some tangible case studies from the Ringier ecosystem where we've done things in a different way, and maybe they can help you. So I want you to go with this metaphor of being in a traffic jam. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get forward, and you're fighting in this game of inches. And I think this is where a lot of us as marketplace businesses are sitting at the moment. You might be a truck, a really big one. You might be a motorbike, a really small one. You might be a number one. You might be a challenger. But you're fighting, trying to get that inch on your competitors. And what we want to do is we want to think about, how do I get into the fast lane? I don't want to make a percentage incremental growth here and there. I want to make 10 times growth. I want to double my revenue. I want to do something significantly different that takes me from a position in the back of the queue all the way to the front of the queue. And that's what I'm going to talk on today. Very briefly, this is the boring stuff. I'm from Ringier. We have a lot of businesses in the marketplaces side. We do general classifieds, jobs, property, and auto. I'm commercial director. I come from a recruitment classifieds background, but now I'm focusing on building scalable products within our ecosystem. Anyway, that's the boring stuff. And I'm from sunny South Africa. There's a few of us here. Back to the marketplaces example. So I've called this busting marketplace myths. And what I want to talk about is three, let's say, buckets of areas where there are certain myths that I think are applicable. So the first is on SEO. I think that there's a myth that SEO is this hard-fought, long-term strategy game that you have to play where you build this brick house, brick by brick, and incrementally make gains. And I'm going to talk about a few examples where we've had really, really big improvements in a very short period of time. I'm going to talk about social. No one so far in the conference has really spoken about social as a channel that's very important in marketplaces. I'll show you an example where we got 9 times growth, 33 times sessions growth off a social channel in a couple of months. That's money for jam and very interesting. And the last one, which we have spoken a little bit about, is monetization and a different way to monetize agents that brings some incremental growth. So let's just dive straight into it, SEO. If you are in the traffic jam, it feels a little bit like this. You're talking about these things, keyword clustering. You're talking about backlink strategies. I really enjoyed the rinsing conversation about the media strategy and how you can grow that. Maybe you're starting to think about voice search and all those sorts of things. What I want to do is I want to think, okay, those are great, and you have to do those, don't get me wrong, but can you find a way to do something completely different and jump the queue? And the way we thought about that is, okay, there's an elephant which is walking through the bush, and that's Google. You have to get out of the way of the elephant. It's going to squash you if you don't get out of the way, and you want to get behind that elephant and go where it's going, because that's the easy route. Can you tame that elephant? Can you force that elephant to do the things that you want it to do? And if you can, you own your SEO strategy, and you control and dictate the terms of engagement. Google is a bit of a black box, but it doesn't have to be such a black box. And the second thing, which is quite topical, Mike van Hayden was speaking quite a lot on it, is there's this 75% long-tail search component, a ton of value in there. Can we find ways to access that in a new and innovative way? And can we prepare for different search that's coming, chat-based search and the likes? So, into our first case study. What we wanted to do to tame Google is we wanted to identify what content Google is indexing, and then we want to start forcing them to look at content that we want them to look at. Nothing necessarily pivotal or fundamentally different about that. But we took 3 relatively innocuous sources of data. So the first is real-time listing data, which I assume everyone has here. You know exactly when your listing is going online. The second one, not in the order of this, is page views. You know which of your listings are getting attention and which are not. And the third one, which a lot of us will have here, is indexing data from Google. Are they looking at those listings, those URLs, those combinations? When you combine those, you can start doing really interesting things. So you can start seeing and measuring a listing has come online, there is a latency period when Google is indexing that listing, and they're only looking at some of my listings and not other ones. And I know which listings I want them to look at because we've got page views measuring that, which means customers are interested in it. And then you can do a really sexy thing. You can start creating a strategy to say, okay, Google, I don't want you to look at that listing, I want you to look at this listing, and I want you to look at that much quicker. I hope that makes sense. And the way that we action this is a listings carousel. This is on one of our platforms. So this is new properties for sale. This is not new properties for sale. It's a carousel on the home page, landing page of our website, and every one of those listings is listings that we know Google has not yet indexed, that we want Google to index, and the second Google indexes it, we're going to swap it out for something else. So it's a real-time carousel. It's just changing, listing by listing. And because it's on the home page, Google lands on it, they index it, they go to the site, and then we pull it out. And this is what happens. We had a 75% reduction in the time it took for Google to index our listings in 2 days, which is pretty astronomical. So it went from taking 16 hours to index our content to under 4 hours. Really, really big increase. The second thing is that of the listings that we have in our sitemap, which is what you're telling Google, hey, this is important stuff for me, can you look at it? We went from 40% to over 80%, again, in 2 days being indexed. That's like astronomical. So that means that you're doubling the amount of content that Google can see. And this is not on a Mickey Mouse platform. This is a market leader, #1. They've been doing SEO for ever and ever and ever, and a very simple intervention like this can fundamentally improve it. And the last thing it did in terms of raw traffic is it had I said an improvement of between 5 and 15%. We saw about 13%. There were some other things that maybe contributed, but that's like really, really, really big traffic improvement. And this is free. This is money for jam. You're not paying for this. It's free traffic that's coming to your site from Google. And if you're not doing these sorts of things, you're missing out on a huge advantage. We spoke about this theme of being a challenger or being an incumbent, and how do you defend versus a challenger, and how do you attack an incumbent? I think you have to do these sorts of things. You have to be smart. This is not marketing money. You're not spending millions of dollars. You're getting instant gratification for a very simple thing, and you're positioning yourself to start really, really challenging that. So then we said, okay, let's be a little bit smarter. Let's really start thinking about new search and different ways to do things. This is an example in our Kenya business. We did this quite a while ago, about 6 or 7 months ago. We took category landing pages. We've all got those things. We pulled the data into an engine, and we processed it with a very simple LLM and a few data points. So I don't know if you can see this here, but basically the premise is on this landing page, the average price is this, the average distance is, average size of the property is this. These are some of the key amenities that are on there. And the reason we did that is because when you have a chat-based search engine, it's not going to compute that data by itself. It needs you to compute it and to give it that data in an easily digestible format. That's how it eats. That's how it gets you into its search. So what we wanted to do and test ourselves is, hey, can we get into AI overview? That was the example there. And the answer was yes, we can. We got in under 1 hour. So we put this thing on, bang, you're right in there, right? So that's pretty amazing as well. And this is what it looks like. This is recent. This is from yesterday. So if you do a localized search, which everyone is doing on your platforms, how much is an apartment in this area, the summaries that are being generated there are verbatim from our site. It's just eating the summary that we've given it, and it's spitting it back out here, because the summary is fit for purpose. The second thing, which is really important commercially, is link number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are all ours. There's no one else that's featuring there, and the reason is because no one else is providing that information in that way for this chat-based search. Mike said, he gave a number. He said he thinks that 50% plus minus of search is going to be disrupted on the chat-based side. I don't know. All I know is right now it's pretty small, but we all think it's coming. And if you're not prepared for something like this, a challenger can come in and they can start eating your lunch, and that's not what you want to have. Brand new. This is sort of fresh out the oven. We launched it. I don't know. We've been at the conference. I think it was launched maybe 2 or 3 days ago, so I don't yet know the difference. The impact of it. We said, okay, let's just take it a bit further. Let's take Wikipedia data and let's throw that into the summary and launch that. So the idea here now is it's not only your data, but you also have stuff like, oh, it's a great student zone. It's close to this restaurant. There's this metro that you can be next to. It kind of touches with a little bit of what Hannah was saying around geospatial data and integrating that. The benefit here is that Google now can consume this very easily, but also long-tail searches where someone comes to your platform and says, I'm going to just make it up, I'm 35 years old, I'm unmarried, I'm looking for a place to meet singles and in an affordable neighborhood. A very different type of search, but you are going to be providing that information now versus someone else categorizing that information. Very, 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 very useful. Case studies on the SEO side. I'm going to flip now to social media, so complete kind of segue into something different and hopefully a different an idea for you. And again, the idea here is how do we take what we're already doing, so everyone here is sending content to social media. There's no doubt about that. Everyone is probably doing some sort of augmentation on that content. Can we think about it in a different way that gets us into the fast lane? I need to give a little bit of a precursor, so this is, please indulge me for maybe a minute or so. I need to talk about how we manage data. So we have data, you have data, everyone's got the same things. You've got listings, you've got articles, you've got landing pages. You've also got a whole lot of other data, like your Google Analytics data, your email performance data, your marketing performance data. Some of us have got recommendation and AI engines that are being powered by certain features. When you take all that data, or what we do is we take all that data and we combine it into a single pool in a data lake. And the reason we do that is because when we want to send content somewhere, we want to be smart around what we send. And we want to use all of these data points to choose what content that we want to send to a specific endpoint. So I give a couple examples on screen. I'll maybe just talk to one example. You have a customer that is coming up for renewal on their subscription. You know that their performance is slightly below the benchmark that you'd like to have. Maybe before that renewal, you want to give them a little 30% boost on performance. We can run that automatically and in real time, and we can make sure that that happens. And that's the benefit of having all that data. And then you can do sexy things with that data afterwards. So you can do things like image cropping, smart image automation. You can do LLM-powered text rewriting. You can do video generation. I'm not going to touch on those. I think we've spoken about it a lot, but you get the idea. So the reason I'm saying these things is when you send this to the endpoints, you've got content, a whole lot of content. You're connecting it, you're altering it, and you're sending it out. That's not important for the presentation, but it's important to understand how we get a 900% increase in Facebook performance on a #1 classifieds real estate player. So what we did is we said, okay, think of that data processing environment I just said. Let's build a multi-strategy Facebook approach. We have a main page, which was already operational, and on that main page, we were just sending stuff, right? It wasn't really smart. Our marketing teams were manually posting things. But let's think about it differently. Let's make a main page which is curated content with low frequency volume, and it's mostly about the brand. So it's written articles, evergreen content. Let's go and then create an enormous long tail of interest group pages. So in our case here, we had about 50 pages. There are other cases where we've done 150, 200 pages. You can do 10 million if you want to. And the idea here is you make these little interest groups. So land for sale in this area, or two-bedroom apartments with a pool in that area. And whatever your content looks like, you can create pages that sort of mimic that. And using that data flow engine, you can customize what they look like, how they look like, when you're sending, et cetera, et cetera. And the impact of having so many brand pages active is that when you have this diverse strategy, you start outperforming the initial strategy by 33 times on leads, which is, again, that's like money for jam. It's very, very powerful. And 33 times on sessions and 9 times on leads. This is a free channel. You don't pay for this stuff. If you're not doing these sorts of things, and if you're not being smart around how you're managing it, you're missing out on a very, very big opportunity. I'm going to give another example. This is from the media side. It's I'm not going to mention the country because then I give it away, but #1 media brand, very established brand. These guys have been posting to Facebook forever and a day. It's what they do. If anyone works in media, Facebook is an extremely important channel for traffic acquisition. The editors select the content, and they're very particular around it. So we didn't touch that. We let the editors continue selecting content, and we ran a recommendation engine and that whole sort of data flow over the rest of the content. And we said, okay, let our machine choose which content is going to go to Facebook because we think that this is going to perform based on the data that we're seeing. And over time, we have not cannibalized what the editors are achieving, but we've managed to 2x that performance. And in a media context, that's a very important number. This kind of growth is the sort of thing that we're starting to see on our classified side as we start to get a little bit more innovative. And I can't speak for everyone. I can speak maybe on the Ringier side. The times have been good in classified, so you make money, maybe you don't become as innovative. On the media side, it's really tough. So these guys are innovating at a rate of knots, and I think there's a lot of learnings that we can take from media and start bringing into the classified side. And my last item is on seller monetization. I'm going to talk just about one case study here, and the idea is, I think we've touched on it. Everyone's talking about how you fight on listing fees and pricing and subscription models and all these sorts of things. We thought about getting out of the traffic jam and going into something a little bit different, which I believe a lot of us are in certain ways working on. Marketing as a service. But can you automate the process of marketing as a service, and can you slightly change some of the paradigms on how you do that? And the idea is simple. Our agents are spending money on our platform, but they're also spending on other platforms, and they're spending on other mediums, like their own paid marketing, their own paid advertising. And what we want to do is we want to increase our share of the budget that we can get. It's relatively simple. There's nothing profound about that. We tried it in a very simple way. So what we said is, in the listing flow, can we start building in some stuff that does paid marketing within the listing flow? The difference here is that it is not the agent promoting their listing on your site or paying you to do paid marketing for them. It is you automatically doing paid marketing on their behalf, on their channels, on their social media, et cetera, et cetera. And the benefit here is when you start sending this out and doing that whole compositing flow that I mentioned earlier, you get really, really wide spread. You get money that's being spent on platforms outside of your platform, so you're eating that other budget that they would have spent anyway. We saw about a 3% increase in revenue from this, so not an enormous number, but it equated, in this case, to about $50,000 that was coming in per month. The other benefits here is that the agent becomes more sticky, because the services that they're spending on someone else is now being integrated into your platform, and you own and you touch those a little bit better. And the one item that I think was understated was that traffic that they are now generating is not going to their portal or their landing page where they've got it. It's coming to us, and we start being able to remonetize that in different ways. So a little bit of a fast fly through a few case studies. I think maybe last point I'd make is we did this all with one piece of software. So this is not an extensive effort. This doesn't involve hundreds of people. It involves a simple piece of software. We call it the CDE. I'm here. If anyone wants to talk about the CDE and how it can work for you, please get in touch. You can scan the code. I'd love to talk to you about how it works. Other than that, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Sorry, 1 second. I've just got to fix this up. Right. Matt, super interesting stuff, by the way, what you're doing. If we could bring up the questions, would be fantastic. Busting marketplace myths, right? There's a poll. Skip the poll. Right. Okay, can we bring up the questions, please? Okay, how does the recommendation model consistently choose more popular content than in-house recommendations?
It's a pretty sophisticated model. So it is something that we built over a period of time with a core team of data scientists. So it's not just a plug and play on that side. But the idea on that is we look at the performance of typical types of content on specific medium endpoints. So on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. When you look at the performance of that content and you relay it back to content that's being created, we can predict which content is going to perform better on a specific endpoint. That's the premise of it. We send content that we believe is going to do better on an end channel. In the media case, because they get lots of eyeballs, you know, and also media is a bit different. You get breaking news, right? So something happens in the war that's very important to a lot of people at that moment in time. We take that real-time data, and then that's the content that we distribute, and it works a lot better. Performance is, on average, about 15-20% better than if a human is choosing it.
Okay, are you licensing the software to other marketplaces? How hard or easy is it to integrate?
We are licensing it. The effort is not that onerous, so it depends on how much of it you want to do, but in the worst case, it's a week of an individual tech person's time. In the simple case, it can be a day or two in your life.
Okay. How much does it cost?
Also depends. If you want everything, right, and that would be like 40 different applications, it's $3,000 per month. You can also choose specific areas. You can say, I want to just do SEO, I want to just do social media. It appeals to different audiences. The digital marketing teams are interested in social media. Your technical teams are interested in SEO. Yeah.
So if I was thinking about my editorial content, I could work with you and help boost it, get more awareness, get more traffic around that.
That's the premise of it. Yeah.
It's the bread and butter.
And we built it for ourselves because we have 140 businesses. We need to do these things. It's worked extremely well. That's why we're looking at selling it externally. It's something we know works.
Okay, is the cost of building the listings distribution engine to Facebook, etc., more than a plug and play from a third party? Does it cost more to build it or plug and play from a third party?
Not plug and play. So there's a difference between plug and play and building a smart brain that selects the content. Plug and play everyone's got, right? So to distribute content is it's a solved problem. The question is, what content do you distribute, and how do you get a very advanced strategy like selecting specific content from a specific person who's had specific behavioral things on your site? That's where it gets a little bit more finicky, and that's where we've invested our energy.
Okay. Can you explain more about reposting listings on Facebook? Do you repost on your own Facebook groups only?
No. We post on any Facebook endpoint, and that is applicable for all social media, not Facebook, where we have an authorization. So, Simon, if you give me authorization, I'll post to your Facebook.
Okay.
And that's how the model works.
Okay, excellent. And what automated Facebook tools do you use?
We use Brandwatch, which is integrated into this as well. That's the only one. The reason we use Brandwatch is because they are very good at telling us the analytics on the performance of a post on Facebook. We don't build that for ourselves because it's also a solved problem.
Okay, and last question is, can you elaborate on the reduction of indexing times by Google? Where will it go next?
So the first part, to elaborate, if Google is taking a long time to index your data, it means that it is not putting that data into its search index, and if people are searching, they're not seeing your site and your data. So the shorter you can get that, the quicker the content goes in, the more likely organic search is to find you. That's the value proposition. Where will it go next? It's a very difficult one. I very much believe that chat-based long-tail search element is going to increase. I'm not an SEO expert. Mike is probably a better person to speak to. But I think if you're not playing in that space, over the next 5-10 years, we're going to see very big changes in the way that people are consuming and getting to your platforms, and you need to be ready for that.
Okay. Matt, thanks very much. Super interesting what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.